So today I'm going to be talking to you about the history of quilting. Quilting goes back in history for even more than 5,000 years ago. According to the Quilt Museum, no one is exactly sure when the quilting even began. In the 1800s, the late 1900s, women used to use the fabrics of men's shirts, jeans, pretty much whatever material that they can find to cut up and make into a quilt. Even the old worn quilts that was no longer was usable, they would cut that down and reuse it in another quilt. this is like this is how they're hand stitched, and it takes a lot of time. This is also a quilt made in the 1900s. This is all hand stitched and hand quilted. I'm sure it took a lot of hours. Back then, a lot of the quilts was made for the functional use, covering doors and windows during the cold in the winter months. They didn't have time to decorate them like we see these days. In the mid 1800s, early 1900s, is when the sewing machine with a threadle plate was made, and it all no electricity needed. It all it does is you pedal your feet, and it would stitch as you pedal with the band. This made quilting a lot easier and a lot faster. Um, During World War One, they they recommended women sewing a lot of quilts for their soldiers. Also, in World War Two, American Red Cross took up that um, took up their standard of wanting they make a quilt to raffle it off, and all the people in the community would do a stitching of their name for a little fee. That way, it will support the Red Cross during World War II. This was known as the signature quilt. Very, very nice, very delicate fabrics. In the 1900s, this was a turning point for the quilt makers. At this point, they wanted to show their creativity side and see what all they can really do, since World War II was already over by then. So they would decorate them with all different stitches, with all different kind of stitches, buttons, all of those good things to make them really, really stand out. This is whenever you start to see a trend in the pattern started to shift as well. Instead of just blocks, you were starting to see maybe a 5-point star or a pinwheel, things like that. In the article, The Evolution of Arts and Quilts and Quilting, they kind of go back and forth to which one came first. Did the art quilts come first, or did the quilter of art come first? I personally believe that the quilter of art came first, because you have to think about it. If you have something that somebody made something that was in their mind or a vision that they had, which came first? I think the quilter who had the vision is the quilter of art that came first. That's just my personal opinion. However, a lot of people did not accept these art quilts for a lot of years, because they was just not. A lot of people and judges did not feel that they was a quilt. They used a lot of them hung on the walls in people's homes, so they wasn't what you say necessarily used as a bed or over a window or a door like you would see back in the day. So a lot of the judges would just take them out of the shows and things, because they didn't think there was a quilt. But later on, now these days, art quilting is a booming piece of quilting. The Quilting Hub did a survey in 2017 about quilting in America. It estimated 7 to 10 billion people quilted these days. So right now it's a $3.7 billion industry, which an average person pretty much spends about $3,000 a year on quilting supplies and fabrics and notation and things like that. Quilters come from all walks of life, whether you're poor or you're rich, anywhere, everywhere that you can find a quilter. Sometimes you may even know a quilter. We expecting a lot of growth in the quilting industry, just from having a lot of people that's getting interested under the age of 45. So that's really, really increasing the quilting revenue. Another thing is our social media. An average quilter spends about 10 hours a week just looking at videos, or maybe buying fabrics, or seeing how a demonstration would be. But that in itself is giving you some insight and some inspiration to do all those good things that you would like to do. Another good thing about the quilting is the social media that we have. We have Pinterest, we have Facebook, we have Instagram. All of those things are great sites to get a lot of inspiration and a lot of quilting advice, and any of your questions that you may need to maybe you have questions to answer. I've always wanted a quilting machine. This day in time, after we did the hand quilting, this is one of the quilts that was made. We went to a threadle machine, which was a pedal drive. Today's day, our quilting machine is what is called a low-worm quilting machine. It is based a 3-layer system, and you pretty much draw on the quilts to make your design whatever you like. Now these can range from hundreds if you want to buy used or you want to buy new. This has a variety of ranges of what it does. Some of them you can sit down in, some of them you can stand up. It just depends on what your preference is and how much space you have and how much money you have to spend. The benefits of having a quilting machine is you can work all hours of the night. You can finish quilts at 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to rush. You can go at your own pace. You're not renting a system or a machine from your local quilting store. Another thing is you will save a lot of money for not having custom quilt jobs. Custom quilt jobs is very expensive. They can cost even hundreds to thousands of dollars as well. So quilting is a very expensive hobby, but they have great benefits to owning a quilting machine and passing those quilts down to your loved ones and making history, because our next generation is going to talk about our quilts and what we have done with them, and changes to what we talk about history now of the history of quilting. So I'd suggest you get a quilting machine and make history. Thanks, guys.